I'm a little anxious or nervous. I'm kind of excited because I knew I was going to be here in the hot seat.
We were just talking about that.
But I noticed that the more I was coming close to it, I was getting a little anxious. So
we were just talking about that.
But either way, I'm glad that
We've used all your time.
I'm going to come up here. So I wanted to ask about not just how we vibrate, but is it possible for objects or things to vibrate?
Everything does. Everything does. In fact, you take a gong or something that you're deliberately making a sound with, it never stops vibrating. Your ability to hear it comes to an end, but the vibration of it never ends. It continues to be a cooperative component throughout the universe.
The reason, or what brought me to that question was a while back, I had an experience where I was getting ready to move up here about 10 years ago, and as I was packing, I had to reduce the items that I had, couldn't take everything with me. And I had a yearbook, which I almost felt like I needed to keep because it was like you're supposed to keep your yearbook stuff. I had my other yearbooks for later years, but that particular yearbook didn't mean much to me.
We understand. How are you going to prevent yourself from moving forward if you don't drag your past around with you?
That's kind of what I do sometimes without realizing it. What happened is during that packing, I literally just decided, I got to go, just toss it. I was like, I don't need to take it with me. I have the memories and all that other stuff. And when I tossed it into the trash can, my friend who was helping me at the time, her eyes widened and she looked at me like we were just kind of moving different objects. And she said, "What was that?" And I felt something too, and it felt like something went with it. So that's kind of why I was wondering do objects have their own, to some degree, attractive power, if that makes sense? Or do they hold a vibration?
Yes, they do, but that's not what that was about. Mm-hmm. Everything is vibrational. And, of course, when you think about something, you establish a vibrational relationship with it. So others, objects, circumstances, and events morph to the dominant expectation that you've got going. But what you both sensed fly by was your decision to move forward and not drag the past with you. In other words, the book went, and then everything that represented, it's like when you reemerge into non-physical, you leave behind all awarenesses, any habit of thought, any practice thought. You no longer take with you a current active vibration of anything that while you were in your body felt like doubt or fear or worry or any of that. And of course, your past is full of wonderful things, but it still will distract you from your now, where all of your power is, and from your vibrational reality, where your true now is. So we're glad you had that experience of visceral sensing. You can't even say you saw it as much as you felt it or you sensed it.
It was more specifically like the fact that someone else felt something like that, it was just kind of interesting. So that's why I was wondering if, objects in different places kind of...
Everything does. Everything that's been touched, everything that's been created, that's why art attracts certain buyers. The feeling of the artist is imbued in it. Everything is vibrational. And those who have focused upon the object imbue the object with their vibrational awareness. Can you feel what a dynamic universe you live in? Can you feel what a dynamic world you live in? Let's not get carried away with this, because you don't want to be running around worrying about what your chair is thinking about you. I wish you'd get off me. Nothing like that going on.
When I went to my first Abraham workshop, this is my second one, 10 years ago, you said, whatever's going on in your environment tends to support what's going on in your environment. And then the fire alarm went off, and you talked about how it got your attention. And so I was just wondering if that's why I had the question is, if objects were sort of holding that vibration and supporting old things. So when I let go of something, it was kind of...
Well, let's move this into a more beneficial place. Everything that you've ever lived is part of the reason that you are where you are. The question that we want to speak bluntly to you is, which awareness do you believe holds more power? Where you are or where you were before you are where you are? It's like you were 3 and you were 4 and you were 6 and you were 10. And some of those thoughts are really fun to think about as you dig out pictures and hear from others about it. But your power isn't there. But part of what you are now is a result of what you were then. But what you are now, that's what is most important. And that's what the non-physical inner being you is focused upon. The inner being you is focused with you in your right now, not looking back. That stuff that you're regurgitating from before, it's sometimes sweet, sometimes nostalgic. It's got a little mix of stuff in it, but it's not where your power is.
Yeah. I just thought because that was the best objective example of what I think when I interact with different things, sometimes being aware of how things might vibrate. So that's...
Why do you care? Why do you...
Well, I don't know. I feel like you kind of...
We're not criticizing you for caring.
Oh, no, you're fine.
We're asking you. We know we're fine. We're asking you...
That's more my anxiety.
We're asking you, why is it of interest that what you want to call inanimate, which implies non-vibrational objects, have vibration?
I just realized what it was. It's that I've often used objects or things as my focus to distract from frustrating things. If I'm at work, then I go to this thing that makes me feel better, or things like that. And I realized that might be the basis of the question.
That's exactly right. As we move forward, you will all hear more about this. One of the things that we've been talking about, Esther's sort of on fire about it because it's helping her so much, is we've been making a very blunt statement that whenever you have negative emotion, it means every time that your attention and attitude and perspective or opinion, all those words meaning the same thing in this context, varies somewhat from your inner being's perspective in the same moment. So what are we saying? Your inner being is focused with you in this same moment every time. And you can tell by the way you feel how resonant your opinion is with the opinion of your inner being in the moment. So it's blunt and maybe a little rude, but accurate for us to say, every time you feel negative emotion, you're telling a lie. Now, we don't mean a lie like it didn't happen. We mean something much more important, emotional guidance-wise. We mean that you're holding to something that your inner being is not holding to. You've got an opinion that your inner being doesn't agree with. So if every time you feel negative emotion, you can stop and say, okay, I saw that happen. My inner being saw that happen. Is there any divergence between me and my inner being? No. But as you keep playing with it, I've got negative emotion, so they know there is some divergence. If you keep playing with it, and we'll demonstrate this as we move forward today, you will begin to notice that whenever you assign motive to something, here's a better way of saying it. Whenever you are pushing against something, that's when you and your inner being part ways. Not completely, but for a moment. In other words, you introduce resistance into your equation. We're coming around to the reason that this conversation is so important. You're really going to like this. It's something that we have not talked about in this very specific way before. You may have heard us say, we say it a lot, that almost everyone, all humans, offer most of their vibration in response to what they are observing. So a whole lot of what makes up the content of your human nowness is things that you're observing. But there's a whole lot that you're observing in your human nowness that you have an opinion about, that your inner being feels differently about. This is the most important thing that we're ever going to say to you. If you're focused upon this object of attention and you feel negative emotion, it means your inner being moved on, but you didn't. That's what causes that tug of war. In other words, this is just a conversation. We know it's out there on the leading edge. This is a conversation that helps you to understand even more clearly what we mean when we say, most people offer most of their vibration in response to what they're observing. And that's why most people's lives don't change as fast as they want them to. They want it, but they keep observing what is. They want it, but they keep observing what is. And that's why all of that stuff, conditions, circumstances, everything that you're observing is a vibration that's being offered that you are choosing, and then it equals your point of attraction and holds you in a point of attraction that is maybe no longer what you want. None of you really want to go back in time. You think you do. But this is where it's at, this vibrational reality that is calling you. Think about it. So you were non-physical before you came into this physical body, and here you are, splat. You came into this physical body, and you know what you don't want, and you know what you do want, and you launch these rockets of desires, which you launch into your vibrational reality, where your inner being stands. That part of you that existed before you were in this physical body, that part of you that still exists in the non-physical, non-resistant realm, even though you are in this physical body right here and now. So you have this automatic awareness, this guidance system of what was then and what is now. Humans are mixed up. You think what is now is what you can see and hear and smell and taste and touch. Your inner being knows what is now is what you put into the vortex and what the law of attraction has done with that and the cooperative components that have been gathered. You have no human idea most of the time how magnificently you have created and amassed, because you're looking at stuff. You're observing what is instead of following the flow. And then there's a lot of defending the stuff that you're looking at. Nothing wrong with that. It's just not what a leading edge creator like you is wanting to do with your focus. That's why that question was so important. And that's why that yearbook, lovely as it is, it wasn't even the now you were focused upon. It was just a now representative of the then that is really keeping you from who you really are and what you really want. Good conversation. Enough?
Thank you.
Enough?